And at the end of the day, telling yourself that you don't have control over your food is your truth, but is it actually true, right? So if we have the story that I can't get to the gym and work out and I have to eat out of gas stations, we start by rewriting that story with, well, what is possible?
So let's rewrite that story.
If I can say anything to my 25 to 55-year-olds, this is the time frame that you need to be focused on. What does your minimum effective dose look like? Meaning, how much of those 6 areas of health do you need to be invested in for you to be at homeostasis?
Wow, that is so powerful. I think everybody that is a restorer listening to this podcast needs to listen to this. What's up, Sarah? Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you here. As you know, this podcast is geared kind of towards fire and water restoration contractors. They're my peeps. And I think that your knowledge and expertise with health and fitness and coaching can be super awesome for everybody listening here. So I'm super pumped to have you here.
My goal is to bring some value to your listeners and have them walking away with some actionable takeaways.
Yeah. So let's just start off. What do you know about our listeners? What do you know about restoration contractors? Have you heard of a restoration contractor before you met me?
I have heard of restoration contractors before I met you. I actually met my first person who is in the business when I was at one of my first personal growth and development conferences about 7 years ago and made his acquaintance. He is from Texas and was building his business in the middle of Hurricane Harvey off the back of what had happened down there. And I came to understand that the business, it's not just the nature of the business with being on call 24/7 but also how you have to live your life as a result of that, that I started to understand that this population has a distinct need for people to be in their corner to champion them with their health and their wellness. Because, you know, as an entrepreneur alone, it's really easy to lose yourself in your business. But when you're also in the restoration business, you're exposed to a lot of things that can, let's say, add rain to your barrel with your health, as well as being on call, having all of these emergency situations. It leaves you in a position for your nervous system to be constantly dysregulated, which we know as health professionals is really at the foundation of where we start to see people's health collapse, is with a constantly dysregulated nervous system.
Awesome. For those of you that don't know, and I'll look at the camera real quick in the audience, Sarah and I have been working together for 9 months now, I think, give or take.
Yeah, we're just shy of our year anniversary.
And I personally tell everybody, I don't do anything originally. I have coaches for absolutely every single endeavor that I take. So coach for talking, coach for business, coach for now. I have a coach for coaching now. And you and Tyler actually are my coaches for my health and my body, which I'm super grateful to have you here. And we've had quite the journey over the past 9 months, right?
We have. It's not just been a physical journey as you've experienced. We came in kind of assessing all these different facets of your health, which we're going to dive further into. And it's been getting you to look at all of them and recognize where you could level up in a lot of different areas where you were already excelling. So peeling that onion with you has been, it's been a really pleasure and an honor, because it's really been some great results that we've been witnessing with you. Sure. Well, I started off in the industry in 2001, and I was going to school for psychology and was working a summer job as a lifeguard. And by chance, the person who was teaching the water aerobics class that weekend didn't show up, and I had to hop in the pool and step in. I've always been known as being the adaptable person who can kind of step in and do anything at a moment's notice. So I hopped in, taught the class, and found that I really enjoyed it. And so it built me into this trajectory with my schooling to be kind of like a sports psych major or sports psych emphasis. So coming out of school, I thought that was what I wanted to do. Went to Arizona, got a job as a trainer at a gym, and was going to go for my master's in sports psychology. And then I fell in love with training. And fast forward 2 decades later, came back to Chicago, worked in the commercial gym industry, learned the ins and outs of the business side, and then decided in 2010 that I wanted to branch out and do it on my own. And took the things that I learned and then created my own systems, had some really great mentors along the way who helped groom me into the business person that I am today and the coach that I am today. And now today have been an entrepreneur for 13 years. Wow. And now have a 4,500 square foot integrative health and wellness facility with my husband, who's a chiropractor, called FunctionalEffect Fitness and Rehabilitation in the suburbs of Chicago. And today I actively work as a health coach. And so I am actually in the process of pursuing my national boards, and I will be a national board certified health and wellness coach here shortly, but I've been working as a certified health and wellness coach now for over a decade. So yeah, so over 2 decades in fitness, over a decade in health and wellness exclusively. And I really focus today on the whole person and trying to deconstruct all of the different facets that make my client the person that they are, and trying to optimize each of those areas for them so that they can hit their goals.
Nice. Super cool. Do you remember the story of how we met?
Well, I remember you coming in and having a very distinct goal of wanting to do Spartans. And that I was going to be the person who gave you your macros. And I mean, it was very much nutrition focused. Like, we were going to hit those macros hard and we were going to diet you down to where you wanted to be. And then we met for the first time and we got to know each other. And I think we both quickly learned that our relationship was going to go much deeper than just the macros. So that's what I distinctly remember about you. But I'm sure you're remembering something that I'm missing.
Well, the way I was looking, I went to Facebook. I'm a firm believer that every problem you have is a who, not how problem. And when I started my fitness journey, I decided, hey, I'm just going to set these crazy, hairy, audacious goals. And it was, let's run a Spartan Beast, which I'm actually running in 3-4 weeks. And I was like, all right, who in the world could help me run a Spartan Beast? I had already written like the sprints and stuff like that. And I was like, let me post online. I'm looking for a local gym in the area that specializes in training people for Spartans. And your husband replied to a post, come to the gym. And what really, really, really drew me to the gym was your husband wasn't just a trainer. He was a chiropractor. You're not just a physical trainer also. You're a health coach and a nutritionist, right? And you guys had monkey bars, the same rope from the Spartan, the rings, and maybe Connor can throw some video footage of the gym. I think I have some B-roll there. So I was very drawn to that. I'm like, all right, cool. These guys are the people. These guys are the who. These guys are going to be the people that I pick. So just wanted to highlight that story, as I thought it was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. The facility itself, was a culmination of us always wanting to stay on the cutting edge of having everything that was available to our clientele to get them moving better first, and then getting them moving often. Because I think the thing that sets FunctionalEffect apart from most gyms that you're going to see is that we really focus, again, like I do with my health coaching, on the individual and creating programming that complements the person sitting in front of us, not just what the goal is that they're trying to accomplish. Because at that point, I can have you Google a workout. Yep. If I'm not assessing you, if I'm not looking at you as a person, taking in all of the different data that we take in, and looking at that and using those data points to make decisions on your program design, I'm doing the client a disservice. Mm-hmm. So that's why we do the food logging. That's why we wear wearable devices. That's why we do all the things we do, because the data is important.
Yep. So when I came to you, what were like immediately some of the biggest challenges that you've seen? And now 9 months later, what other challenges still exist, and what boxes do you think we checked off?
I think that, like a lot of high-achieving entrepreneurs, one of the biggest things that I saw with you was, how do I get Alex to understand that there's power in putting on the brakes, and that it's not always going to be hit the gas. And I think that that has been the most valuable lesson that you have learned through this process, is understanding the stress recovery paradox. And that's truly, and that's what I'm going to be speaking at the Evolve conference on, is understanding the stress recovery paradox and how we can get to this point with, good stress, bad stress, stress is stress. And it's understanding all of the different things that lend themselves to filling up this proverbial rain barrel that we're all equipped with. And then doing enough things that we can get the rain back out of the barrel to the point where we're not experiencing maladaptive effects with our health. You know, it could be mental effects, it could be physical effects, but I don't think that many people realize how much stress plays a role in, you know, everything from our quality of our sleep to even our libido. So it's really understanding all of those different facets and how they all connect together and how they all blend into creating the person sitting in front of me. And then it's my job to extract out what we can do to turn that in the other direction.
So yeah, now thinking about it, well, actually a couple of things. I think this is a later lesson that I learned. You know, went quote unquote balls to the wall. We're prepping for this Spartan beast, right? We're doing all these things, you know, work out every single day, go crush at work, just absolutely like go 110%. And it was like, okay, certain results weren't falling in. And then you're like, well, yeah, you got to take it easy sometimes. You got to do certain de-stress things like cold plunging, like saunas and stuff like that, which was actually very helpful. But to relate it back to restorers, I would argue and say that the majority of this audience listening to us right now hasn't even gotten to the first point of like what I came with you at. And they probably struggle with what I struggled with early on. And before coming to you, I struggled with the concept of the balance between performing. Well, I think I struggled with the balance between performing in work, performing at home, performing in health, and performing in spirituality. And it got so unbalanced to where, I don't know if you know the story, but, you know, grew this restoration company. It was literally work, eating out of gas stations, all this stuff, ended up gaining weight, ended up being super stressed, super unhealthy. And then COVID hit me. And my wife was pregnant with our now 16-month-old daughter. And I end up in the hospital not knowing if I'm going to make it for like 4 weeks, right? And that was like the aha moment that triggered me to say, hey, look, what's the point of living life if you aren't going to make it to the next day? So that's kind of what got me on my fitness journey. But the biggest fear of mine early on, and I think most people listening to this podcast too, they're like, okay, great. Here's a nutritionist telling me to eat well, sleep well, work out well, but I got a 24/7 restoration company and I still got to wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning, so I can't sleep well, and I got to eat out of gas stations, so I can't eat well, and I don't have time to go to the gym, so I can't move well. So what do I do? And I feel stuck. I feel frustrated. So what do you think?
Well,
where do we start from there? Let's start unpeeling this onion of if I were your client, I came to you with these things.
Yeah, and that's valid. That's most people that come to me they're in a position where they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but they're not really quite sure what to do about it. Okay. And what we need to focus in on with any one of those people is what controllables do you have in your world? And at the end of the day, telling yourself that you don't have control over your food is your truth, but is it actually true? And so that's where we have to really work on rewriting the story that person's telling themselves first and foremost. Because if we don't look at that first, then that story is going to continue to perpetuate in everything that person does and how they live their life, right? So when they see what's possible, which is oftentimes all that's necessary, that's when we can start to precipitate change and we can start to rewrite the story. So my job isn't to tell you how to live your life as you experience. It's rather to paint the picture of what's possible and then get you to fill in the blanks with the colors that you want to see there. And that's where we as coach and client create this harmonious relationship where it creates autonomy for the client, for you to be the decision maker, and for me to be the guide, and for there never to be this air of resentment, but rather extreme ownership with ultimate support and knowing that there's no judgment attached to it. And that's my role as coach, is to be able to bring out the best in my client no matter what the circumstances are. And sometimes the circumstances are pretty cruddy. I get it, being an entrepreneur, running a gym, being a mom of two, being a wife, having 160 plus members that we're serving any given week, it's a lot, right? And so I get it that it can all feel very heavy at times, but it's extrapolating out what do you actually have control of, and that starts by rewriting your story.
So let's rewrite that story. Yeah. You mentioned my 4 pillars, you mentioned your 6 pillars. And let's rewrite that story for a very busy entrepreneur and restorer. And I have a truth that I'll reveal at the end of the story, but let's paint it.
Yeah, so if we start with just physical health, right? So if we have the story that I can't get to the gym and work out and I have to eat out of gas stations, we start by rewriting that story with, well, what is possible? You know, can we create a space in your home where you can do a 10 to 15 minute routine that helps undo your day? In regards to being bent over a steering wheel, driving on your phone, on the computer, basically in a forward hunched over position for most of the day. Can we do something for 10 or 15 minutes to undo that? Can we get some steps in? And if we can start with those simple controllable factors, as well as you don't have to eat out of a gas station, you're choosing to eat out of a gas station. The reality is that we could keep a go bag in your refrigerator or in your truck. There's coolers that can plug into your lighter outlet. There's a lot of different possibilities for people that live in a state of constantly needing to be on call. And there's a lot of different things that we can put in that vehicle that would create convenience without being spoilable. Yep. So simple things like good quality beef jerky, nuts, things that we can keep at all different temperatures that will make it so that you can't fail. Yep. So again, rewriting that in a very simple way. And a lot of gas stations also have cooler sections where you can get hard-boiled eggs, you can get cheese sticks, you can get fruits and veggies. They might not be top quality Whole Foods type of veggies, but they do exist.
Plus, they have protein shakes.
Yes.
That's my go-to in a gas station.
So choosing wisely, regardless of the circumstance, it's always possible. Even eating out. You know, there's something like Chipotle, they have the calculator. You can go right into the calculator, and if you happen to know your macros like Alex does, he can go into the Chipotle calculator. He can figure out exactly what his macros need to be for that meal, and then he can base his order off of that. So there's a lot of different ways to make convenience work for you if that's what you need. But rewriting that story that gas station food has to be crap food.
Super powerful. Yeah. I mean, I went with the fear of I need to start working out. I need to start eating healthy. It's going to rob away from my business. And I'm going to have to take away the time and effort in business to have to focus on these things. And I'm like, wait a minute. A simple thing like having a fridge stocked with protein shakes and healthy food to where if I ever get the munchies and I'm in a meeting, I don't even take lunch anymore. I just walk over to the fridge, grab my protein shake, take it on during the meeting, right? A simple thing like, you know, I have truck driving buddies who they drive a truck for a living. You know, a 15-minute body weight workout, or they'll have a kettlebell in their truck and they'll just whip it out. There's the Simple and Sinister program where, you know, you do Turkish get-ups, clean and press, and swings, and that's all you need, right? So it's just a matter of just mindset shifting, saying I want to put emphasis on my health.
Absolutely. Right? You cannot pour out from an empty cup. And if we think of ourselves, I keep referring to this vessel, yes, right?
Yes.
So if we think of ourselves like this rain barrel or this vessel, that if you let it go completely dry, how are you going to pour into your business? How are you going to pour into your family? How are you going to pour into anyone else if you're pouring from something that contains no juice? And so that's where doing the little things like that 10 to 15 minute body weight workout, like eating a slightly better choice from the gas station, having the back stock of protein shakes, those are all things that help you refill your personal cup so that you're pouring into others from your overflow. And when you can do that, that's when you will see success in all different facets of your life. And you yourself will be still at your best. Because I see people all the time that they excel in business, they excel in their family life, they excel in all these areas, but their personal health is destroyed. They have become a shell of themselves because they are constantly giving, but not doing anything to replenish the tank. And that's, it's my goal as a coach is to help people see how they can get there, because it can look like a lot of different things. We can, like baking a cake. I always give this analogy. We can put the ingredients in a lot of different ways, but we still come out with a cake. And the same is true for us as humans. There's certain elements that we all need. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily matter in what order we put them in, as long as we're getting them in to some degree. We're still going to end up with a cake. And so like water, sleep, good quality food, those are all things that bake our cake. And if we're not getting those basics in, you can't bake a cake without eggs. You can't bake a cake without oil. We have to have those basic ingredients in. And so if I can start there with my clients and build from there, that's where the magic starts to happen.
Yep. Have you noticed, actually, before I ask the question, I'll kind of give an analogy, but it's my principle that we want to live until our life expectancy and drop dead within, I don't know, ideally 24 hours, right? Like I would love to, if God says 90 years old is when you die, when I'm 89 and 23 hours old, I want to drop dead and just die, right? But the reality is that most humans, right, they start degrading, right? And there's this curve, right? They'll get to 30, 40, and then that curve starts coming, and then it's this slow regression. They might live till they're 90, but the last 10, 15, 20 years of their life, they're not able to have the quality of life that they wanted to have before. So what can you say about doing these simple things that you're talking about? Eating right, sleeping right, and, taking care of your stress properly, and how it relates to the quality of life that you can live in the future.
I can say so much, but if I can say anything to my 25 to 55-year-olds, this is the time frame that you need to be focused on. What does your minimum effective dose look like? Meaning, how much of those 6 areas of health do you need to be invested in for you to be at homeostasis? Because our goal is always just to be at homeostasis, which for your listeners to be, at neutral. We that's our goal as humans, because it's going to give us the best longevity. It's going to give us the best quality of life. And so if we can keep moving that needle towards homeostasis with that minimum effective dose between the ages of 25 to 55, what we're going to see for that person 55 plus is a really awesome retirement years. They're going to actually be enjoying their life. They're going to have good health. They're going to have good longevity. But when we see people neglecting their health between the ages of 25 and 55, we see a steep decline, 55 plus. And you cannot pour in enough 55 plus to make up for what you lose between 25 and 55 if you don't pay attention to your health. So it's like the idea that for every 1 hour of sleep that you get for every 1 hour of sleep you get before midnight is worth 3 hours of sleep after. So it's this idea, like, we want to be able to get the most out of the years and out of the time that we have. And so 25 to 55, this is the time that you need to start paying attention to what your minimum effective dose looks like. So how much healthy eating do you need to do to move the needle? How much exercise do you need to be able to move the needle and keep yourself in that homeostatic element where you feel good, you're operating at your optimal, your energy is at its best, and that all areas of your life feel balanced? Because again, even with things like exercise, there's a point where it's too much. So it's understanding, what does that minimum effective dose look like, and how does it translate through to real time in your life? Because again, for each one of us, the avenues that we take to get there are going to look a little bit different. No 2 clients of mine are doing the same things. And that's because each of you are individual and have different needs, have different lives, and have different goals.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So one of the things that I would love my fellow restorers to kind of learn about is a principle that I've adopted that I call eustress versus distress, right? So eustress is you're stressing your body out. You're putting your body under stress, under tension. Distress is your environment stressing your body out. It's my theory that the more you can learn to stress yourself out in a good way, the more you can handle the stressors or not get impacted or be in that neutral position. And the more you eat right, the more you work out right, the more your output in business or the way you're showing up increases. Have you seen a correlation related to that?
Well, I think that you definitely have the right idea of, and it definitely plays right off of the way that I look at it, which is every decision you make either pours water into the barrel or takes water out of the barrel. Okay. And again, you could be doing a specific type of workout that actually becomes distress, just as much as you could be doing a certain type of workout that is eustress. But your body doesn't know the difference between the different types of stress that you experience. It simply knows stress. So there's a certain amount of hormesis or stress that our body needs in order to perform at optimal. So the more we expose ourselves to different types of stress, the better our stress tolerance becomes, provided that we're doing things to refill the tank.
So what are things that you could do to refill the tank?
Well, like eating healthy, like getting optimal sleep, like even how you think of stress. So what research shows us that the number one thing that you can do to better manage your stress is to change your perception of it and to understand that things aren't happening to you, but they're rather happening for you. And for those of you in the audience that are spiritual, that is something that I believe with my whole heart, is that anytime I am dealt a card in my life that seems challenging or bothersome or troublesome, that it's something that's happening for me and it's something to make me better, versus the old version of me would have looked at it as oh my gosh, this always happens to me. I can't believe that this is happening again. And that mindset alone can set off a chain reaction within your body that can cause a completely different adaptation to that stress response. So teaching people all of these different elements that they can do to mitigate their stress is recognizing, one, who's sitting in front of me. Again, how do they manage their stress and what does it look like when they're faced with a challenge? Because then I can help them reverse engineer how to look at it differently. And again, it oftentimes starts with the perception of the stressors, and even with workouts, understanding that soreness might be a part of the process, but it's not a badge of honor and not something that is an indicator that a workout was good or bad. So again, it's changing perceptions of things that oftentimes starts the ball rolling in the right direction with how somebody handles stressors and adapts to them better along the way. But really assessing from each of the 6 factors, so physical health, mental health, emotional health, relational health, environmental health, and existential or spiritual health. If we can break down each one of those 6 factors for the client and get them to understand where they might be able to make some changes or where they might be able to fill in the gaps in their own lives, that's where we can see the needle start to move, no matter who the person and no matter what the goal.
Mm-hmm. So everything just comes full circle back to perception, back to the way you see things.
Perception is reality. And that is your story. So the way you perceive the world is how you, and that is how your story has been created. So if we can, again, repaint that for you with what's possible, then we can oftentimes get that story to start to shift. And it's a process, as you have experienced yourself, of understanding the less, sometimes less is more. Like when we had a sticking point with your weight loss, what was the thing that moved the needle? It was actually doing a little less.
Stressing the body out less and then doing more to de-stress the body.
Correct. Doing a little bit more recovery, a little bit less on the do more end. And you actually saw that needle move in the right direction. And so that's where, if we can balance the stress and recovery, we will get the result that we're looking for as humans. But it's understanding that as you build you earn more stress by treating your body kindly and by doing the things that you need to do to help unwind the effects of our world. We live in a world that teaches us that we need to be on 24/7, but we really need to buck against that and recognize that if we want to play hard and we want to achieve a lot, that we need to recover hard and that we need to recover a lot. And so that's where, if we can bridge that mindset, we will be unstoppable as entrepreneurs. We will be unstoppable as humans. We will be unstoppable as parents, as spouses. You'll be unstoppable in every aspect of your life if you can nail that.
Yep. Wow. That is so powerful. I think everybody that is a restorer listening to the podcast needs to listen to this, because you're a 24/7 service provider. You're doing this for the future of your kids. You're doing this for your community. You're doing this to help others. If you don't pour into yourself, you won't be able to pour back in, and you'll burn out.
And if you do pour back in, think about how many more lives you can impact. Yep. Just by taking a little bit of time, getting your stuff together, you will be able to 10x, 100x, 1000x your results, because you will no longer be pouring from that empty cup.
The one thing that popped into my head right now is a conversation I had with my spiritual coach, actually. And it was based on self-limiting beliefs. The one thing that I preach to everybody, I'm like, self-limiting beliefs are bad. They're horrible. You shouldn't have them. You should break them down. That's how you grow. And everything you just said, right? Self-limiting belief about working out while in restoration. Oh, you can't, or you can't eat food at the gas station. So I'm sitting there, we're talking, we meditate. It's like, Alex, what's on your mind? And then I explained to her my theory of scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. I'm like, there's nothing scarce in the world. There's only everything that's abundant, except for time. And then she eggs me on, tells me, okay, what do you mean by that? I'm like, yeah, well, there's only so much time in the day. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much that I can do. And I'm frustrated that there's only so much time. And she's like, do you see how strong of a belief that is? I'm like, what do you mean? Physically, there's only so much time. We can count it. She's like, look how strong that belief is. And she gave the example of Albert Einstein. He could not have had enough time. It would have taken a person of his intellectual capacity 5 lifetimes to come up with the inventions that he's come up with. But he was able to, within a couple of years, and he even said that it just kind of naturally came to him, right, come up with the inventions that he's come up with. And then she gave me another example. It's like, look at how many people by your age have done what you've done versus other people, it takes them 50 years or whatever. So even the concept, the factual, the black and white time, you can debunk that. Absolutely. And it's a strong belief that you could just pick up and throw away. I was just speechless at that point.
I'll give you one more example. Post-industrial revolution, Henry Ford implemented, which at the time people were working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. Henry Ford said, you know what? I'm going to sell more cars than anyone has ever sold before. And you know how I'm going to do it? I'm going to implement a 40-hour work week. And I think we all know how things have turned out for Henry Ford. Yeah. So when we can be strong in our beliefs about something and understand that that is 50% of our success is our belief about it, it changes things pretty dramatically. So by being able to paint the possible for my clients, it effectively helps me change that 50%. Wow. And that is what creates the beautiful results that we see with our clients. It's by understanding that it's not the what, it's the how.
And I want to share this with everybody, but ever since I've gone on my health journey, I haven't spent a single extra droplet of hour of cooking. I haven't spent any super crazy additional time focusing on working out.
That was part of our plan.
It just integrated within my life, and I just set these systems up, that you're just set up for success, because you fall down to your systems. You don't rise to your goals. So if you bump up your systems and you hire a health coach, you find ways to have a bike trainer while you're, sitting on meetings, or walk around and be on the phone, or, find a buddy who's an insurance agent who can refer you work and then go out for runs with him. Like, all these things, you can live this integrated life where it's almost effortless. You just have to be intentional and shift your belief. And it doesn't matter if you're in restoration. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer. It doesn't matter what kind of entrepreneur. You can and you deserve the 300, 400% year-over-year growth, and showing up for your family, and showing up for yourself, and all of that.
Yep. Shift your beliefs, figure out your minimum effective dose, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Cool. So, Sarah, do you only help people in the Chicagoland area, or
I help people all over the world, actually.
Okay. Cool.
I think I am up to 6 countries now that I have clients in. And I'm open to more, but I do have a very short client list, because I am primarily stay-at-home mom these days, which will be, shifting again once both my little ones are in school. But right now my clientele is fairly limited. I do have a few openings in my books, but they're always quick to fill up. So
got it. Cool. So I'll have Michelle put in the comments below where people can reach out to you, follow you.
Yes, I would love to get in touch with anyone who has more questions, or anyone who would like to know more about how they can start taking that journey in effectively figuring out what their minimum effective dose looks like.
Awesome. You're actually coming out to one of our events here soon in January.
I am. I'm very excited to be one of the speakers on the panel for the Evolve Conference, which I'll be talking about this exact topic. So if people want to get more in the weeds and they want to get more in the what, come to Evolve, because I'm actually going to be diving into what all 6 of these areas look like in real time, what kind of changes you can be making in these areas to move the needle on your health, and giving and not only doing the speech, but doing 2 hands-on sessions where people will get to experience all of the magic that we do at Functional Effect. So I'm very much looking forward to the conference, and hoping for a really big crowd to be able to speak to.
I can't wait. I'm super excited. For those of you who are listeners who don't know what Evolve is, it's a 2-day restoration event. It will be here in Downers Grove, Illinois, January 15th through the 17th, I believe it is. We'll put the link below. We have awesome speakers like Sarah, like Ben Surdy, who sold his restoration company. And we're trying to focus on like all of the pillars of your life, and super excited to have you come speak about health for restorers, because none of the restoration conferences have that, and I think it's a unique thing that we're able to bring.
I am pumped, and I hope that I start a chain reaction within the industry of people realizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup, and if they want to come and figure out how to fill their cup back up, you better snag your seat at Evolve.
We should start the Fill Up the Cup Challenge.
I love it.
Powered by Sarah. Well, this is super awesome. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Talk to you. See you guys.